the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Well, here we go. Another exciting edition of the Revved Up Sports Show. Monday afternoon, holiday weekend, New Year upon us, Rodney.
Another
lots of good
year,
things
my
happening.
man.
Good
Wow.
Lord.
2023. Man, here we go again.
Let me kill my screen here. There we go. Now I know we have an echo. I couldn't figure it out, and then I realized I didn't have my volume turned off my laptop. Gotta love new technology, right? Same old stuff we always do, but you know first of the year jitters, man. That's got to be what it is.
Brand new year, my man, and yeah, here we go again. I mean, I think that 2023. I think it's going to be a good time. I think it's going to be a really good time.
I think there's already been some good stuff today. Obviously, Owen announcing that we've got the spring fling or the winter showdown, whatever you want to call it. I can't remember what he called it exactly, but announced that today for South Texas for the South Texas racing fans and racers there at the end of the month at the race ranch. So that's I think the date on is the 27th. So that should be a good show. Running last time we saw running off of 2020 rules and 2020 points or purse structure rather. So it's not as far as I could see. I didn't see it say anything about being a points race for 2023 or anything. So that's good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big old deal when they start. I mean, when you start that early, I mean, it's like, boom, here we go. And that's not surprising with what Owen has been doing, you know, with his shows up there. It's he's going after it. And I mean, he wants to capture every audience that he can find. And I love that. He's got the go-karts that are going to be doing their things as well this weekend. So, yeah, go get it. Go get it.
Lots of good stuff to be had. Although I will say, now, those that are wanting schedules to come out, obviously everybody wants a schedule sooner than later, but Owen's got a lot of stuff on his plate. He's got to juggle around two racetracks, the Race Ranch and, of course, Texana Raceway Park. Then he's got to throw in a late model series that he's working with, and also he's helping out the Spurs series over there at Houston. So he's got a lot on his plate in addition to all the normal stuff, trophy building and everything else he's got. So I'm sure he's working on schedules as much as everybody wants it out, just a little bit more time. We're still only 2 days into January 2023. There's still a little bit of time to get the schedule worked out. So
and this will be a fun show. We're going to talk to John Heil coming up in about I don't know what do we say, about 15 minutes, and then we'll talk to Nick Holt. And the reason I wanted to talk to Nick, I mean, I know the San Antonio thing is coming up, and that has come to pass once again. And so yeah, let's talk San Antonio. See what
again? Golly, did that blow up like wildfire?
Man, again, it never goes away. It never goes away, my brother. And you know, I mean, it's I love the aspirations, but that's a tough pill. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of investing on that side of the town. But also, I'm just telling you, it just showed one thing. You and I. We saw it first thing in the morning, right? And we texted back and forth, start right when they announced about 8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock. And we sat there and we talked about it. And all of a sudden, by the end of the day, one of them had 600 or 700 shares on it, about 150 comments and all of that. And it's like the one thing that it showed with all the San Antonio announcements is that with the Facebook posts and all that good stuff, is that it just proves that San Antonio, the market is ready for another racetrack to be built there, whether that be circle track and or drag strip. And if you're smart, you might as well build them both together because you're going to double up your money because it seems like both crowds are fired up about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was talking to a lot of folks, and they were talking about, well, you know, when Chris and Brian were doing their thing, you know, everybody was all excited. Remember the way they did that. They did that, and they had, before they ever asked anyone to come to the racetrack, they had a car out on the racetrack. They had already gone out and done all this work. Then they asked for people to come out. And to me, that's the difference right there. And I mean, honestly, to me, Bobby, the big thing for me, this is more drag racing centric to me for San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that's a bigger thing. And I'm sorry, you're not going to race back there. I mean, the last time I was out there, 2013, you got all kinds of buildings out there. Alamo Dragway is not coming back. So I mean, I don't know. I wish them all the best, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's not exactly the best land to purchase over there, just or
No.
leasing or whatever the case may be.
No.
There was a lot of industrial stuff over there. The last time, I'm like you, last time I looked, when I stood up on the backstretch there at San Antonio and looked over at the drag strip, there was,
Yep.
I mean, nothing other than the original 2 lanes that kind of popped up that you could see, through some of the buildings and stuff that got laid down. But I don't know how they're going to set it all up. I mean, it'd be nice to have a little bit more information, but definitely the teaser definitely woke up a lot of people.
Well, and that's the whole thing to me, because that was the one thing that I caught a lot of heat from people. It's like, why are you being so negative? Remember when Chris and them did that thing? It was like, okay, here we are. I'm Chris. I'm Brian. We're doing this. And every time that you have these ideas about doing stuff, it's always kind of a nostalgic thing, try to read into the message and all this stuff. Chris and Brian told you, we have a lease. We're going to run 4 races. That's what we can do. And, I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's not going to work. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that
we tried it once and it didn't work.
Right.
Or didn't
right.
It worked for 3 races, but it didn't work for the amount of races they had. That one rain out really destroyed everything.
Yeah.
But hopefully, maybe it'll be better in take 2. Maybe they learn from Chris and Brian. I don't know. I doubt they're seriously talked to Chris and or Brian about it, but you never know. But everybody kind of wants to do their own thing. So.
And the whole thing is, when it comes to that, I mean, because San Antonio is so racing starved, and what I hope doesn't happen is that folks are going to put all their eggs in this basket. And don't forget, you got I-37 over there. I mean, I know it's not San Antonio, but I mean, that place is doing really well. So you need to support that. But man, this is going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be real hard to pull this off. I mean, to race at SAS is, I mean, shit. I mean,
it's going to take a lot.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, to get that place ready, I mean, to see what Chris and Brian did when they got that place back together, that right there, that was a grassroots effort, and grassroots efforts are great, But one of the things that I was posting on LoneStarSpeedZone.com, which Nick will talk about this later, is, I mean, you gotta have somebody that can come in there and really make things happen. And again, I'm not trying to take away from the effort. I mean, I hope it happens, but dude, that's a lot. That's a lot to pull that together.
It's a lot to pull together. That's a lot of people that you got to get rowing the boat in the same direction. And I think it's possible. But I just think, the one thing is, like you said, it's more drag racing centric at first.
Sure.
It has a big old drag racing car on that poster and a little itty bitty dirt modified, sport modified there on the for the asphalt rounding round stuff. But it's interesting that they had the San Antonio Speedway as the cover picture and the profile picture.
Yeah.
But at least for the first little bit of time when they talked about opening it back up, but we'll see. It's way too early to make any kind of judgments or anything on it. I think we'll have to wait and see a few more people involved and stuff like that before we really try to give our complete opinions on it, right?
Well, and that's the whole thing, because I had folks reaching out and they're like, reach out to so-and-so, because I know who the people are. I mean, I've gotten the names of who they are. And it's like, reach out to them, get them on the show, let them talk. And I'm like, I kind of
too early.
Yeah. I mean, I want to know that it's something that's going to pan out, because the whole thing is, I want folks to be able to buy in if it's something that's going to work out. And I'm not saying it's not, but, I've said for a long time, for me, that Marion property, I mean, that's a place. I mean, if you really want to do something, I mean, that's a place. Go out there, build a dirt track, build a, half mile, whatever. That's a place where you can do that, because that infrastructure is in place. And I think you would have a lot better, what's the word I'm looking for? Leeway to be able to go out and do that. Right. To be able to do that right there, because and location. I mean, south side of San Antonio, it's really hard over there. They're going to build houses out there, dude, and we know how that works. That track has been there since 1977. But if you're going to build a subdivision on the left or right side of that place, man, you're screwed. It ain't never going to work out.
Yeah, even if you're there first, right? We've learned that the hard way. Multiple racetracks.
That's right.
As long as you move into a racetrack and the neighbors start bitching about the noise of a racetrack. Look and see about Texas Thunder. We know about that from years gone by, where they built a subdivision right smack ass next to the property line at a racetrack that was in operation. It had been in operation for 25 years.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And lo and behold, boom, did not matter. The taxes from the neighborhood superseded the life of the racetrack, and so be it. And so another one bit the dust.
Yeah. And I mean, I applaud the folks that have the idea in mind. I mean, I really do think, to me, for San Antonio, I mean, the drag racing thing is the main thing. And like I posted on Lone Star Speed Zone, I was like, if I'm going to do something, I'd do a motocross thing. I mean, to me, that would be a bigger, I don't know, a bigger win.
Bigger draw.
Right. And the drag racing is great, but I don't know. I hope it works out, and I hope that the folks have their ducks in a row. But it's a lot. And to take on that place, and that's what Nick will talk about, is the whole thing is when SAS was built, they built it half-assed in the first place, and that's part of the problem. That's been the problem from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to pay off the inspector every time he goes out there, a little bit of cashish on the side pocket there to make sure the pace passes inspection, that's when you got issues. That's the biggest problem that Chris and Brian had.
Yeah.
Because they had to try to bring in all the everything up to code, and you couldn't bring that stuff up to code at all because there was nothing to bring up. That's why you had to bring in the temporary porta johns and the porta lights and all of that good stuff to make it happen. And yeah, it's a lot. We've always said it before. You're almost better off. We even talked to Nick about it again. You're almost better off building something from scratch and trying to rebuild the history over there.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I mean, with that place, I mean, you have to go in there and, I mean, there's so many different problems with the place. When you talk about environmental stuff, I mean, it's jacked up. I mean, it's not the place to try to do it. But if somebody can do it, that's great. I know a lot of folks were talking about, rebuild the dirt track. I don't know how you can do that because there's nothing back there. I mean, where that dirt track was, there's like concrete and buildings.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to do that. And I don't know. And I saw some stuff. Our man Jay Hallis, was posting on Speed Zone, talking about being disappointed about people in particular. I think he was talking about me with the disappointment of the idea. And it's like, come on, dude. I mean, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do this? I mean, and the whole thing is, Bobby, when you go in there now, the way everything is landlocked, I mean, it used to be wide open right there off of Watson Road. I mean, there was nothing back there. But I mean, now you got a Circle K across the road and all this stuff. I mean, there's no way to pull that off.
It's just there's too many variables, right, to know if you're going to be able to do it right, and there's too many obstacles in the way to try to make this thing work. Just because you got environmental, you got city, you still got Toyota, you still got the eminent domain that got over there. You got to worry about all kind of stuff over there.
Yeah, it's a mess. So it's one thing to try to make it work, and I would love to see it happen, but I just don't know if it's going to be able to happen. And man, San Antonio has a race track, and I think that's a thing to where we talk about with pavement racing and all that. I think that's where folks need to support the racetracks that they have, including Houston. I mean, there it is, boom, right there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's already right there, already running, already got a schedule announced and everything, and new classes that the people were, asking for.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So hopefully, I mean, we'll figure that out. I mean, we'll talk about that with Nick. I think that'll be a great conversation to have his thoughts on what all is going on right there. But anyway, that we'll dig into that. But let's go to the hotline for the first time tonight, and we are talking to, with San Antonio, Floresville. Kind of in the same spot. It just kind of worked out that it all worked out that we happened to get this dude on. It is one of our favorite dudes, Mr. John Heil. How we doing, sir?
Hey, pretty good. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing well, my man. Doing well. So, John, I mean, we're talking about San Antonio and SAS and all this stuff. I know it's far-fetched. I mean, your thoughts on all that?
I don't know. I wasn't listening. What's going on with this? What's SAS? What's that?
Well, that's a place that you used to race at, my friend. There are folks talking about maybe opening that oval track back up with the drag strip behind it and all that, bringing racing back to San Antonio. Could that happen?
Well, I mean, enough money, anything can happen. I guess.
Boom.
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about this, so this is all news to me. But that's how it used to be years ago. The drag strip was behind there. When I was a kid, we used to climb up to the top, the bleachers there, and watch the drag cars, or off the top of the bleachers there, and turn around and watch the stock cars and the other way. So
yes, sir.
I think Martinez brothers owned the drag strip years back.
Yep, that's right.
So, John, talk about is there still a need for a racetrack within San Antonio proper, or is I-37 close enough to be considered San Antonio's racetrack?
Oh no, I think if you got a good asphalt track going to San Antonio again and go over real well. I mean, there's still a lot of asphalt racers that quit racing just because they didn't want to drive to Kyle or Houston. They were pretty much just set on racing San Antonio, and when that track went under, a lot of good racers are sitting on the sidelines right now.
Yeah. So, John, I would love your thoughts. I mean, now that I'm part of Mobile and knowing all the Pensacola and all that, do you think that if we could have an asphalt track in Texas, I mean, I know we have one with Houston, but do you think that if we had an half mile high bank, whatever, if we had one of those, would that be better for Texans trying to go race along the Gulf Coast and bringing Gulf Coast racers to race with us in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, when you head out to Pensacola or Mobile, they're half-mile tracks, and there's a little subtle differences between the two on setup. But I mean, as far as gear and springs, I mean, you could actually just go from one track to the next there without changing a whole lot. Whereas if you went from Mobile to Houston, you've got to change quite a bit. So that might deter a lot of people that would normally come not to come. So
right.
I think a high bank asphalt track. I mean, which that's what's there now. San Antonio was a pretty cool little track. You had to be a pretty good shoe to get around that place, and it taught me how to get around a lot of places that people say are difficult, and I don't feel they're too difficult, just because I think San Antonio was that hard to get around, and and I'd love to see that configuration just go back to being there again.
That's right.
So, John, as one of the guys that travels out to the Gulf Coast area with Mobile and Pensacola and some of those races like that, and we talked about maybe it has a little bit to do with the fact that it's coming to Houston is like a 3/8 of a mile versus a half mile. Why is it that the guys on the Gulf Coast don't travel? Is it because they don't have to? Because they've got really good, successful racing programs where they're at. I mean, even when they put up big money for the truck race in Houston, I think they had 2 or 3 guys from the Gulf Coast that brought their trucks over from Pensacola and Mobile.
Yeah, I mean, they've got several tracks there close by, and I mean, just to be honest, when you want to see how good you are, you kind of go to the East Coast and try them boys out over there. And that's kind of how you stack yourself up against the best of the best, which that's where most of them are from, is the East Coast, and it's been that way for years. And I just don't feel they have a lot to prove by coming down here to race either. And it's just so far. That's the best I can figure. I mean, I enjoy going to new racetracks anywhere, and if I have opportunity, I like to do them any chance I get. But with gas costing so much and everything costing so much now, it's just not in their best interest to drive so far.
Mm-hmm. So, John, let's talk about the year for you. I mean, and kind of hone in when it comes to the Outlaws and all that. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift right there to where they're trying to racetracks are trying to make it more economical for that class. Just kind of your thoughts on the season that you had. You wind up winning at Houston at the end of the year, but kind of your thoughts on the Outlaws. I mean, where is that going at this point? I know with SRL trying to do the sportsman thing, trying to pull that thing back just a little bit. What direction are we heading with the trucks and the Outlaws?
Well, the Outlaws, I think, has got a pretty solid foundation right now. I mean, there's quite a few cars in every race I've gone to, and there's some very good drivers in that class. So I don't see any issues with it on the East Coast. Not sure why it's not firing off here so well. I mean, there's you got Robert Barker and a few other people running the Outlaws here, but I'm not sure why it's not trying to take off here. If they run them again this year, I mean, I hope to run quite a few races here. We're trying to get quite a few racing going on this year with me and the guys out east. You got Rawhide and all them guys that I've been driving for down there. That Rick Blair owns a '96 Outlaw that I've been driving, and Rawhide and takes care of it over there. James Smith, he takes care of the car, and at Scott Carlson's shop there in Pensacola. And I'm lucky enough just to drive down there and get in it and go race. And I'm hoping to do a whole lot of that this year. I've also got some races on the plate for J.C. Kleckler, owns an Outlaw down there, and he's building a prolate. I think I'm going to run the Alabama 200 this year and the Rattler starting off with. So I'm kind of looking forward to this season.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a lot better when you just arrive and drive, right, than have to turn all the wrenches and get all dirty and all that, isn't it, John? At this point in your career, it probably feels good to finally be one of the hired guns, more so than normal.
No, I ain't no hired gun. When I'm there, I'll go change the tire. I'll get under that car. I'll turn a wrench. If I ain't working on them, I feel like I'm not worthy of being in that car. So I do all I can do. I wish I could do more for them guys because they really bust their ass down there. I mean, I'll promise you right now that Rawhide's under that car at the Scott Carlson shop working on that car right now. I'd bet money on it. They're actually putting a new car together. Rawhide's building a brand new Outlaw, so we'll have two guns this year. So we'll see how that goes. But no, it's just fun racing with them guys down there. You know, they're it's Rawhide. You got Fisher, his son, Todd, Sonny. Jason Furlow came help this year. Yep. Rawhide's wife, Pam, I mean, she's there the whole time helping. Chris Mitchell shows up and helps. Augie. Scott Carlson lets us use the shop for nothing down there. And it's just a great group of guys, and we're all having a good time. And we show up, and our name is definitely in the hat to win a race. Yeah,
no doubt. Every time that you show up, I mean, you are the man. So, John, let's talk about the trucks. I mean, that's one of the things where I know in Mobile, we really focus in. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter right there. And it's so weird between Pensacola and Mobile. It's like, Pensacola has all the Outlaws. Mobile has a good amount of trucks. I mean, your thought on that? I mean, to find the balance. I know there's different tires and all that, but to make that all kind of mainstream and make it work. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. It is kind of strange how that works out. You got a few Outlaws show up at Mobile, and a lot of them at Pensacola, and a few trucks at Pensacola a lot of times, and a lot of trucks at Mobile. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you get them both going to both tracks. I'm not real sure what you do, and you got a different kind of group of drivers winning at both tracks. It's kind of a weird situation there. So I don't know what you do to get a good group of field at each track every weekend. You could save more money, but that don't always work either. So
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the different tire situation isn't helping any of that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what I know why they did it, because Hoosier's been so screwed up on their tires. I mean, we can't even buy tires to practice with. So that's really put a monkey wrench in a lot of racing. So hopefully Hoosier gets back on track here, and maybe we can find a neutral tire to run at both those tracks and at Houston. Stay on the same tire. That'll help greatly on cars coming down here, because you got to think. You race Mobile, Pensacola, or Pensacola, Montgomery. They're running a Hoosier tire, and then you have a race at Houston. Since it pays pretty good. It's like this 5,000 to win race we had here a few weeks ago. Yeah. Well, they got to come down here. They got to spend, minimum 2 sets of tires, probably 3 sets if they're serious about winning, and they're going to get there early Friday to test. Mm-hmm. So by the time they travel, buy 3 sets of tires because they're on a different tire and race, and they do win, they really didn't accomplish a whole lot, money wise, and it's the tire situation is a bad deal. Just if they could be on the same tire, they could come down here on the tires they practice on, and they could just buy one race set, and it would be more economical for them, and they might actually show up.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, in terms of like the pro late model portion, right? You talked about running the pro late model, having to run the Alabama 200. That the program they have going on at Mobile, where it's 40 to 50 laps to try to get runs in with a pro late model. Is there still a need for that? So guys don't just kids and guys, whatever you want to say, don't just kind of pop in and have to instantaneously start running 200 laps at a time, or is there a good spot in Mobile for them to work on that 50 lapper?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the pro late class there was actually, if I remember right, it was getting a little stronger towards the end of the year at Mobile.
Yeah.
I would almost think a class like that should be running a minimum of 100 laps, and you might say, well, if only 10 cars show up, that's not worth doing. But a lot of people don't come to race 50 laps, so they might be surprised if they up the laps one race and seen what happened. You might be surprised how many cars show up for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And the same thing in Texas, like the truck race. I don't know, that last race was, I don't know, was it 60 laps or something like that?
Yeah.
You start running for $5,000-$10,000 a win, they ought to be 100 lap races. And for 100 laps, for 5,000 to win in a 100 lap race, that might get some people down here. I really think so.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So, John, let's talk about the business side. I mean, for you, with everything that you do, I mean, with all the great race cars that you build and GARC, I mean, talk about that. I mean, how is business right now? It seems like even though times are tough, you guys are building badass race cars.
You just got to work hard. Anybody that's still staying alive doing this is probably some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. I've been lucky. Last year I built quite a few cars early in the year, and right now I've got a bunch of cars lined up here to be worked on. We've actually I started a rental program here for a modified. So it's actually available for rental at Houston this year for all the races. So it's a brand new car. It raced Pensacola. Ricky Moxley rented it for that race, and it's an opportunity for somebody just to show up with their gear and hop in a car and go race. So just trying different things to evolve with the sport and just try to stay alive in the sport.
Yep.
John, how hard is that to do though with the just letting somebody come in and drive? I mean, they got to have like a crash clause, and you don't have to give us the complete business stuff, but it always seems like it's not quite as simple as just showing up with a helmet and sitting in the seat and going. I mean, it's got to be more complicated than that, right?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of new to this too, so I've asked a lot of people and talked to a lot of people that do a lot of it, and yeah, I mean, you just got to make sure that if it gets tore up, that it's covered. And besides that, it's you're just not going to have somebody that come off the street to start racing. It's got to be somebody that's got some kind of background in it.
Yeah.
Last thing you want, tore up race cars one thing, but getting somebody hurt's a whole nother story. So you just want to make sure that you got a pretty good, a decent driver that made laps, and that's basically all there is to that. As like I say, I'm learning as I go with the deal, but Ricky Moxley is a seasoned driver, so that was an easy rental there. I didn't have to worry about anything with him. He's a seasoned driver, and he's actually a good friend of mine too. And when Ricky Moxley tells you something, it's pretty much in stone. So that deal there wasn't a hard deal to sew up, but it'd be nice to get him on board for Houston. I kind of put the bug in his ear, and he's going to think about that. So, but it'd be fun to have him back in Houston, anyways.
Yep, had a cold beer with him in Pensacola, and we talked about that. So I think that would be pretty cool. So, John, lastly, your thoughts on Modifieds of Mayhem? Just that series right there, everything trying to fall into line. I think that that's something that can really become a big deal. It seems like that's something moving forward that's going to be pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, this year is one of the best car counts I've seen. Caliber drivers are stepping up. I mean, we've got some new guys coming up that's running really good. Stan does a great job with that series. I mean, he's professional. Makes really good calls. You can call him on the phone, talk to him about something. He'll listen to you and actually take you serious. I can't say enough about him. You know, he's very well appreciated from the BMF crew over here. Yeah, I mean, hell, we got a new track we're running this year. I think Citrus County down there in Florida is a new track, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, when you start getting up there in age, and the new racetracks are you don't get to go to them very often. So
that's right.
I jump on board anytime I can do that. You know, I got to race Nashville this year for.
Yep.
You know, that was a bucket list place to go to. We come up one position short on the goal, but maybe we'll have a shot at it this year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about Nashville. But John, speaking of the one thing I wanted to know is that so when you had that big wreck there in Pensacola a couple of years ago, and your truck survived to a certain extent, what all did you end up having to change the design of your truck chassis at all on that deal, or was it just okay, make sure that worked, and that worked, and continuing to build them the same? What was the thought process behind that?
No, I mean, I didn't change the design a whole lot. I added a couple bars in there just because of the way that happened. But to be honest with you, I don't think there could have been any kind of amount of bars I could have put in there to stop from having it. You know, you're probably upwards of 100 miles an hour. I was still in the gas when he got turned in front of me there. I was probably only off the gas pedal halfway when I got under him and flipped him up on top of me. And you know, you got to think. So let's say I'm going 90 miles an hour, and this truck's weigh about 3,000 pounds, and he lands on my roof going 100 miles an hour. I mean, you tell me what, you know, a cup car is not going to have a halo that's not going to collapse.
That's right.
That's just it was a strange accident. Nobody got hurt. My truck held up, in everybody's opinion that saw it very well for the circumstance. And as far as design changes, I'll put a few more bars in it from now on just because of that. But to be honest with you, I don't think it would have helped a whole lot. As bad as that, as not really as bad as it happened, just the situation how that happened. Yeah. There was no time to brake, slow down, or anything, and you know, just luckily, either one of us got hurt.
Yeah, no, that's right. Lastly, John, again, one more question. So, Mobile's trying to pull back in the Camaros and all that, and Houston's doing the the bootleggers and all that. Your thoughts on getting a stock class and getting those cars back out what we used to do back in the old days?
I mean, the problem is everybody wants they don't want to run a stock class anymore. They want to have they want to have racing springs. They want to have racing shocks. I mean, I come from the ground floor of racing back in the early '90s, and those cars had to have stock springs in them from a junkyard. That you could run shocks from AutoZone, no matter if you could buy it from AutoZone or O'Reilly's, you're good.
Yep.
I mean, if they get back to something like that, it'd be okay. But the problem is the promoters want to listen to all these racers instead of writing a set of rules that's economical and saying that's how they're going to be. They want to listen to this guy and that guy and that guy, and before you know it, we've got too much money in a car again. I think the class that I used to run in back in the day was called the Charger class, and
yep.
And I was 18 years old when I built that car, and it was a wreck. Somebody wrecked it, and I took it and put a rear clip on it, and I went to a junkyard and got everything I could get to make it good. Put a paint job on it, and I went out there and won races in it right off the bat. and I didn't have a pot to piss in back then. So
Yep.
that's what we got to get back to. We got to get back to where you don't have to spend a lot of money to start racing. You know, once you get in it and like it, then you get the bug bites you. Then you're in it for the long haul. But we got to start getting people back in the sport, and having to have a $30,000 vehicle to go race your first time is not the way to do that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. I think that is the main thing that we need to talk about right there, what John just talked about. John, thank you so much, my friend. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening, and man, looking forward to seeing you in 2023.
Yep. Y'all watch out. We're going to try to do a lot of racing this year. We're going to try to get that Outlaw in victory lane again. The more Grand American race cars, hard to beat them. So get back on top there, and maybe we'll talk to y'all again shortly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Looking forward to it, my man. Take care.
10-4. Y'all have a good one.
You bet. There he is, John Heil. How about that, Bobby? That's a man right there. When he starts talking, that's good stuff.
That's right. Well, people need to listen too. He's built a lot of race cars over the years, knows what he's doing. When he talks about needing a stock class, like nobody wants to run a stock car, then he's onto something really. Only couple of stock cars that we know about are the Eco stocks in Houston and the pure stocks that run at the race ranch and at Texana. That's the closest thing you get to a pure stock nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is it. That is right. That is right. Good stuff right there. Talking to John Heil. Coming up, stick around because we'll continue that San Antonio conversation. Let's talk to Nick Holt. What do you think he's going to talk about, Bobby?
I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to be very opinionated on the new developments coming on the south side of San Antonio.
Absolutely. He is coming up. Nick Holt. That was John Heil. This is #Real Race Talk. It is the Revved Up Sports Show. Good stuff coming up tonight.
Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey friends, Rodney Rodriguez for your neighborhood auto repair and service shop in Cedar Park and Central Texas. It's Computer Age Automotive. Does not matter, domestic, foreign, hybrid, whatever it is, your auto repair and service. Mr. Gilbert Simmental and his great staff there at Computer Age Automotive, they will be the answer to whatever your problem may be. They've been doing it for 35 years, so that tells you something right there. Check engine light diagnostic, computer reprogramming, computer flashing, computer calibration. Doesn't matter, even the diagnostic stuff. Body control systems, engine control systems, power and battery systems. They have the answer for you. ASE certified mechanics. You drive a diesel, they can take care of that for you as well. It's Computer Age Automotive, the Simmentals. Great folks. Hey, they're racing folks, so you know that they can get stuff done. Been doing it for 35 years and still going strong in good old Cedar Park, Texas. It's computerageautomotive.com. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Revved Up Sports Show and Revved Up ATX.
Have you heard about the latest and greatest technology being built around the DFW area? Generation Race Cars and JL Racing, located in Springtown, Texas, are now offering top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art Southern Sport mods and limited modifieds. Generation Race Cars and JL Racing can provide new cars, turnkey, complete bodies, shock revalving, and chassis updates, along with providing trackside setup guidance and a whole lot more. If you're looking at competing at a whole new level, call 817-528-2947 and ask for Justin today. You can contact them through the JL Racing Facebook page to learn more about Generation Race Cars. You put a ton of effort into your race program. Now take it to victory lane with GRC.
Hey everybody, Rodney Rodriguez for CRS Suspension. Are you ready to take your racing program into victory lane? Well, if you are, then it's time to call CRS Suspension, the industry leader in handling technology. CRS now solely owned by winning iStock and late model racer Jeffrey Abbey, whose knowledge can do big things for your oval track success. Give CRS Suspension and Fabrication a call today at 325-330-0647 and learn how you can get the shocks and technical guidance that will put you into the winner's circle. You either have CRS shocks under your car or you get outrun by those who do. Choose to win and call CRS Suspension today and follow them on Facebook at CRS Suspension Fabrication.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Scientific data proves it. Size does matter. The bigger and wider your television is, the better. Football season is here, and the time is now to get your entire audio-video experience tuned up and ready. New flat screens, projection video, Dolby True HD surround, all the goodies at great prices and followed up with great service. So call us at 255-8678. That's 255-8678 or on the web at avconsultations.com.
Back here live on a Monday, New Year's edition of the Revved Up Sports Show. Showtime Bobby Chaffee right here. The Iceman Rodney Rodriguez. That's the man on the other side of the screen there. And we trying to make it happen on the new year. Little difference. We'll be back in the studio soon, coming in on another show. But with the way logistics worked out, popping side by side today versus side by side on one screen. But we'll get it all squared away here in the next couple of weeks, getting everybody back on the same schedule. Update from the Rose Bowl. Glad you're listening to us versus watching the Rose Bowl, because it looks like after that third quarter into the fourth quarter that Penn State's kind of opened up the woodshed a little bit. Now it's scoring. Scored 21 unanswered points in the second half there, so it's 35-14. Penn State over the Utah Utes there in the final bowl game of the season, minus the college football championship.
What is a Ute?
Monday night.
What is a Ute? The two
It's
Utes.
kind of like it's a Mormon version of a Sooner.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, that's good. That's a good thing. I do want to say, remember when they said that John Heil didn't like to talk?
He always talks to us.
He talks pretty good. He talks
he
really
always
good.
does good with us.
He talks really good. John Heil checking in right there, talking about all that good stuff. College football and hell of an NFL game coming up tonight, too.
Yeah, very important seeding implications there on the NFL side there with the Bengals and the Bills.
That's right. That's right. Let's go back.
That's in Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, Cincinnati. Back in Cincinnati. Let's go back to the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline for a final time tonight. And with all the talk about San Antonio, I thought that it would be really cool to talk to our man, the insider, the man that knows San Antonio better than any of us. It is the professor, Nick Holt. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Rodney. Thanks for talking.
Absolutely, my friend. So, Nick, I know that we're sitting there watching all of this. We're hoping this thing is going to work out. But before we dive into the logistics of what could happen, let's talk about the challenges of opening San Antonio Speedway.
Well, you got more than just a couple of little minor things to get through. And it's going to be, it's just, it can happen. I'm going to set right up front here and tell you, that everybody thinks I'm being real negative about all this, because I do see a lot of the obstacles.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you right up front that this can happen, and all it takes is somebody with enough money or resources and that's willing to not turn a profit for quite a while.
Yep.
That really and truly loves the sport and is willing to commit more than his wife or his grandchildren are willing to let him commit, but
Yep.
he's going to do it anyway because he loves it that much. Now, does that sound pessimistic to you? No, it sounds very optimistic. I think it can happen.
Sounds realistic.
But,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of buts. One of the biggest obstacles in the whole thing is that the city of San Antonio and Toyota plant, which is just around the bend from that place. You can see it from the grandstands, right? You've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Toyota's there, and the city had to bend over triple backwards to get them into that little spot right next to that racetrack of ours. They built a railroad just to get to them. They gave them all kinds of our tax money, and we're still paying for it. In other words, the city is in bed with Toyota without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was that the pig stand, there used to be a little pig pen on the way down to the track. Remember that? Going down Highway 16.
Yep.
Yeah, you go by there and it stink like great. Well, guess what's not there anymore? And places like that. And they kind of looked at San Antonio Speedway as being like that pig pen,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of noise, a lot of drunks, a lot of this cowboy racing stuff. And, and the Japanese didn't really, I'm not saying Japanese, but the people from Toyota didn't really think that was probably their best neighbors. And I think the city kind of agreed.
Yeah.
So the city is not on board, and they never have been, and they may never be unless somebody with enough money can go in there and change their mind, but I doubt that happens. The other thing that's really kind of tough is that land, you know that land pretty good. I know it real good. I walked every inch of it.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of pipes sticking out of the ground out there, and all those pipes are oil wells that have never been capped.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're out there racing, you go off the track and turn number one, you go launch. Joe Armandia can tell you that you're going to like land right on top of one of them pipes. And one of them did, went right up between his legs when he was driving one night. And he's lucky that it ended up between his legs and not somewhere else. But that whole place is filled with an oil field that they just abandoned one day. And it's an old mom and pop oil field, the kind that you used to have in Texas where you just abandon it. Who cared?
Mm-hmm.
Well, people care now, don't they? The EPA cares, banks care, a lot of people actually care that never used to care. All right, so you've got this little problem. We've got all this heavy metal in there, and I can vouch for the fact that there is heavy metal in there. I helped dump it in there myself. I didn't know it was I didn't know it was heavy metal. I didn't. But I stopped the trucks going down Highway 16 from Alamo Steel Plant and told them where to dump it, because that's where the rigs would all get down in the mud, and we needed some good old gravel in there, and we put some in there, and that stuff glows at night, I mean, it's just full of stuff from Alamo Iron Works, which is heavy metals all over. Not to mention just all that old oil field. And we used to have a thing called a mud track. I don't know if you remember that one.
I remember that, Nick. I do.
Well, here you go. Well, guess what that became after it was a mud track? It became a dump.
Mm.
So all the oil and all the crap and all the pieces of burnout race cars and you name it is right there. And it hadn't been touched. Yeah. All right. So we got a few little things. Oh, yeah, and out there in turn one, there's a septic field that was never a field. It was just a place where we dumped all the raw sewage out there.
Yeah.
So that, you go walk out there in your hip boots and you get covered with slime, and it was all from that 5,000 spectators that were there that Saturday night, just flushed right down into the center of turn one there. So, we got a few problems that people might consider an obstacle to building it. Then we're not done. The turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 have all been eroded out. All they did to make those turns was to plow out the field in the center of the track and make the turns. They just took a bulldozer and piled it up as far as they could get it, and hoped and prayed that it wouldn't collapse, and it didn't.
Yeah.
But now it's collapsing, right? Yeah. So all this talk about, well, the surface is still good, the racing surface, you could go out there and run right today. You keep hearing that from a lot of people. But guess what? If one guy's going to go out there and he's going to go right through turn 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 because there's nothing supporting it. All right, so one of the big pluses was, well, the track is still good. Well, no, the track is not still good. And there's one real big plus, though, and I will tell you what that is. And that is Frank Howell in his wisdom. Well, I'm not saying wisdom. Let's go back a step. Eddie Bergwall and Daddy Bergwall, when they built the grandstands, they didn't build it too awful stout. And on opening night, the first night in San Antonio, Highway 16 Raceway, those grandstands was rocking, and I mean literally rocking. And they needed some reinforcement. Well, the Bergwalls never did reinforce it, as far as I know. They might have put a pipe or two up there, but what Frank Howell did when he bought it, he got his cranes out there, and they put some heavy-duty girders in there. And that thing, you put a hurricane or a tornado in there, that grandstand's going to stay.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely built. But the wood, of course, is all rotted out and all that. Yeah. But that's the best thing about the track right there is the grandstands are solid. They're absolutely solid.
That's right.
Now, there's a couple of obstacles there, Rodney. I'm not sure if you picked up on that.
Yeah. I'm kind of figuring into that.
Yeah.
Well,
then there's a couple of other little problems, like what it would take to move all them houses that are now down the street. Less than a quarter mile from turn 1, there's a beautiful new subdivision in there, and another one all staked out just a little closer. They're all going in because there's this money that's available for low-income housing now,
sure,
which is dirt cheap. And guess what? That's a perfect place for low-income housing, and it's going in. Nobody's stopping it. The city wants it. The county wants it. The people want it. Everybody wants it except somebody that would want to make that place a racetrack. We wouldn't want that, right? Because every one of those people on Saturday night is going to be blowing ballistic, just like they used to at Central Texas or, in Thunder Hill. They used to scream and holler across the way there and had the cops out there, I don't know how many times, trying to shut us down.
That's right.
But that is a little problem. And now he's talking. The other thing is, whoever these people are, and I don't know. Do you know who the people are that are behind this? I know a name or two, but that's about all I really know.
I do. I don't want to talk about that. It's kind of one of those things, Nick, to where it's like I've gotten that on the down low, and I'm like, okay, it's not going to work either way.
There you go. I got you. And not a problem. It's just that a lot of people sense that there's more of an interest in the drag strip than there is the oval. Well, okay, and that's great. But the drag strip is, there's no way they're going to revive that.
You can't do that. You can't race back there. There's no way. I mean, the last time I was there in 2013, and there's no way to race back there.
Well, you've been out there in 2022, and you'll see that there's double no way they got actual businesses in there. You'd have to go in there and shut down corporations. No, it's not going to happen. And so the drag strip part is out. Now, I suppose somebody could put a drag strip somewhere in that property that is sitting there for San Antonio Speedway, but they better have some pretty good shutdown material there because they're going to run out of room real quick if it's a quarter mile. Mm-hmm. And an eighth mile probably would work in there. I don't know where they put it if they plan on putting an oval in there as well. So my prognosis is somebody could do it, honestly. If somebody had enough time, patience, money, and willpower, they could build right there. And I'd be the first guy out there volunteering to be the race director.
Yep.
I'm thinking. I'm all for it. I can't wait. I've been down a few of these roads before, like you have, and several of us have gone down this business where people are going to build, and they ask for, a little cooperation and positive thinking for them and all that. Well, I think most of us have been down that road a lot of times. And so far, the ones that did it they gave it a good shot, but it was all temporary and built on volunteers. It wasn't sustainable because volunteers are good for 3 races?
Yep.
How many? And after that, you got to pay people, or else they're not. People are going to find a skeet shoot someplace, or maybe a duck hunt they want to go on, or a deer hunt or something, instead of going to the racetrack for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, so I do sound awful pessimistic.
I get that. Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I just see the lay of the land, and I don't see it. I think there's a couple of places in San Antonio where they could build and be very successful. There's a place there on Foster Road. I don't know if you're familiar with coming into town from Houston.
Yeah.
Coming into town from Houston, and it's on the left-hand side, and what you see in there is a bunch of daisies and sunflowers in there. And what that is the pipelines that go to the new sand reservoir down south of San Antonio, where we ship all our extra water.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gets to be drought time, so we can ship it back, well, the way they ship it is underneath those pipes. So it's on that property. And so they have these huge easements on this big, beautiful piece of property to make a perfect racetrack.
Mm.
But there's easements on it, and they have the right to go in there and tear it up and do their pipes and whatever they need to do. But they're also perfectly willing to lease the top property, whoever wants to buy it, actually, as long as their right-of-ways maintained intact. I know this because I worked with a guy that actually was going to pull this off. Don't ask me any more than that, except that I worked for one full year with this gentleman, and we developed some real workable plans for that property. And I can't go into detail after that, but
right.
Anyway, there is a place there that you could really run a beautiful facility. You could even run a Formula One track in there, complete with all the everything. It's just a beautiful piece of property for racing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nick, it sounds like it's more economical to go ahead and build a brand new track than it is to try to rebuild San Antonio Speedway, depending on where you want to put it and land values and stuff like that. The one thing that Rod and I were talking about is that even before the whole thing blew up on Facebook as fast as it did, is that it seems like San Antonio is the motorsports community is ready for another racetrack to be built somewhere. Is that something that you've noticed too? I mean, is it, what is it? Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we love I-37 and Ray and the gang over there for what they're doing and keeping that place alive and up and running. But it sounds like the San Antonio motorsports community is really, really fiending for either a new drag strip or a new oval track, preferably asphalt track, is what we've seen here in the last couple of weeks with this last couple of days with this news about San Antonio Motorplex.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, except I don't agree that it'll be a little mom and pop deal at all. It's going to have to be the best looking racetrack you ever saw in your life, complete with all kinds of amenities and things that people would just want to go there just because they get to go there. And by the way, they might have a race breakout every now and then. It has to be that type of a place. It has to be a destination with all kinds of reasons for people to show up, whatever they might be. But it can't be, hey guys, every Saturday night, if you all come out and bring your cars out here and we'll race every Saturday. No, it can't be that anymore. It just does not work anymore. It has to be a fabulous, beautiful, brand spanking new entertainment complex that people would come all the way from Austin and Houston and Laredo or wherever. They can come up there and enjoy a beautiful weekend, maybe even with, hotel on base. Or I'm just saying it has to be something major for it to work. All the mom and pop, me and a few guys figuring out what banking we want to have on the track up at Central Texas. No, those days are gone. And matter of fact, they were gone when Thunder Hill was actually built. Those days were already gone. Mm-hmm. And the same with San Antonio. Those San Antonio Speedway days were numbered no matter what. People just weren't showing up anymore, even though it was the best dang facility anybody around here's ever raced on.
Yeah.
Just they weren't coming.
Yeah.
And it has to be something that's exciting, that is absolutely novel, that people will be willing to put, $150 down to go out and go see and do, instead of saying, hey, we got a $10 ticket, and if you bring the kids, we'll give them half price or whatever. It isn't going to work like that anymore. It just isn't going to work like that. But I do agree there is a market here in San Antonio for that.
Nick,
there absolutely is.
The funny thing that I've always said is one of two things. Out there at the in Marion with the Alamo City Motorplex or whatever it's called. I mean, build something out there. There's land there. I mean, do something with that. I know that's all in dispute with whoever owns that and all of the mess. But Rotama Park, I mean, those are viable resources to me, where that would be where you could kind of go in and dive in and maybe save this for San Antonio.
I agree 100%. As I started off saying, all it takes is somebody with that vision that's got enough expendable resources that they don't have to worry about it, and do it. I mean, it can be done. There's no doubt in my mind that it can be done. And if the right person has enough guts or gumption or whatever it is to do it, I'd say resources. Balls is a good word.
Yeah.
And they're going to have that, because, that's the only way it's going to fly. Is that a risk? No, it's a guarantee you're going to lose money for probably at least 20 years. There's no way you're going to break even with a multi-million-dollar facility right off the bat, unless you're, giving away gold nuggets or something every night. And there's just no way. But there is a person out there that I believe strongly. There is somebody out there that could do this and wants to do it if he just thought he had half a chance to do it. And I agree that there is more than a half a chance to do it. There really is. The time is really ripe to have a first class, not a dump, not a rebuild, a first class, custom built show place that people from miles around would want to come just to see it. And if that happens, hey, I'm volunteering. I want to be the race director for that place. And I will, whatever it takes, I'd be busting my head to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would too, Rodney. You'd be the first guy in line to say, hey, give me that microphone.
Yeah. And isn't that the main thing, Nick? I mean, I think with San Antonio, I mean, they are so starved to have racing there. There's so many things that you can do there. I mean, to me, there are two cities in Texas, San Antonio and Corpus. Those are the two that could afford to make this happen. And I mean, San Antonio, I mean, there's so much to do there. I mean, you could pull in, big time, asphalt or dirt track races, drag racing, whatever it is. I mean, that really is a destination site.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. People would want to race there, particularly if it was a first-class facility.
Yeah.
I mean, they just would like to race there. The guys would get on the bicycles and want to race at Koto,
Yeah.
Why? It's a first-class facility, and people want to race there, and there's things to do there. San Antonio is absolutely a place where you could spend a weekend and race and have a blast. There's so many things to do, just like you said. And if you happen to be a fisherman, and maybe not quite as big of a racetrack facility, I don't know if Corpus could really support a huge one like they could at San Antonio.
Yeah.
But, man, I can see some attraction down there. That's the best fishing in the world right down there. And I've never known a racer. Well, I guess there's probably somewhere that don't like to fish. They all like to fish. And when they throw their damn helmet at the race promoter, they say, hell, I'm going fishing, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Nick, before we cut you loose, talk about Lone Star Speed Zone. I mean, that to us, I mean, that is so near and dear to our heart. I mean, that's a place where we can go on there and we can have great discussions. I mean, anybody can jump on Facebook and Twitter and all these places, but we continue to go back to Speed Zone and we just have great constructive discussions about all this bullshit. And that's really what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it was designed to be. That's why we put it up in the first place. What, 22 years ago now,
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
And even if we didn't have one more discussion on that place, even if right tomorrow, nobody ever showed up to say one word on there. If you could look at what I'm seeing people from all over the world Googling words that show up in our website. The history of racers that you've never even heard of that were racing back in 2002, right? How many do you know? Well, you probably know some because you're almost as old as me. But, people do Google this site like it's absolutely going crazy. That's where we're getting all of our hits. Nobody comes here to say, God damn that promoter, he screwed me over and blah. They do all that on Facebook and Twitter. So we're not asking for those people. We don't want those people. What I want is some racetrack, let's say Marianne, or let's say I-37, to say, look, guys, from now on, you get on Facebook, we're not talking to you. We're not talking to you. We're going to make our Facebook page informational only. We'll put up all the information you could ever want on our website, but you're not saying a word on our website. But you can go over to Lone Star Speed Zone and you can say anything that Mr. Holt says you can say, which is maybe not as much as they'd like to say, right? I'm not going to allow anybody to bash your track or another racer. I'm not going to let anybody use really vile language or actually get on there and blast away. That's not what it's there for. Yeah. But if a track wanted to, I would be more than happy to make that place their official dialogue with the racers. Talk all you want, we'll talk to you. That means that the promoter no longer has to spend 24 hours a day on Facebook worried about some yahoo that's saying that they hate his guts and they're organizing the boycott for the 150th time. No, so that they don't have to worry about that. Let Mr. Holt and his team worry about that. And if you want to get on to say something, that's fine. And if there's some topic that we might need to talk to you about, well, we'll call you.
That's right.
But you don't have to spend 24 hours a day on Facebook worried about what people say. If they would just make Lone Star Speed Zone their official dialogue site, where the way they communicate two ways with their racers, make their Facebook page the way they communicate one way, from the track to the world, and make Speed Zone the place where the world and the track talk to each other. Yep. Now, does that sound stupid? No, it doesn't sound stupid. Does it sound hard to do? Yeah, because promoters or people are just afraid that if they lose those hits on Facebook, they're going to somehow drown. And the reason why those people are hitting that thing is hope there's some yahoo that's getting on there to stir up a bunch of crap, right?
Yep.
They're hoping for that to happen. And so they go check every day to see if Bubba is still mad at Jamie, and that's what it's about. But if you get on, Speed Zone, you want to know about the rules maybe, or maybe what's the latest call about, shock heights, or tell me about tie down, these pull down things. Are we going to make those legal or not? All those types of questions, can be discussed openly and honestly on Speed Zone. And that's what the place was designed to be. And Rodney, you're already a moderator. You probably don't know it, but you are.
Oh shit!
I put you on.
Oh yeah,
that. You are. Okay. So now, if you
I'll leave that to you. I will leave that to you, my friend.
I know. I've got a couple of guys that I trust that do really good. They help me out a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what it's for, and I see no reason why it can't be that. And even if it's not ever that again. Just the history of Texas right there, live and in living color, just as it came down, is worth its weight in gold. There's no place, and I know of, that you can find the racing history of a racetrack, or actually more than just a racetrack, Central and South Texas racing, that right there on Speed Zone. If you don't believe me, Google some of that stuff, and up it comes.
Yep.
Remember some of those things we used to went through? Some of those guys that came in here and said they're going to build 16 tracks all through Texas.
That's why I wanted to have you on, Nick, because you've lived through this, and even some she's. There's been some she's that were building tracks.
You better believe it. Man, I'm still selling my lighter than air race chassis, but nobody bought any lately.
That came up on the chat. That came up on the chat. That is great
That's
stuff.
good. Yeah. Anyway, you're right, and please don't paint me out. Don't paint me out to be so negative. I'm not all that negative. It's just kind of a realist. I guess you might say.
Yeah.
I'm realist.
Yep.
Been down that road a few too many times.
Yes,
I really want a racetrack to be built in San Antonio. Do I ever? I can almost taste that chicken on a stick already.
There it is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good stuff. Nick, thank you so much. You were the man. What talking about this? I mean, because, and again, I mean, I've been called out for being negative about this whole thing as well. But I think you, Bobby, and I, and so many folks we've been down this road. I mean, it's like, okay, again, here we go.
Yeah.
We know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
We know how it goes.
Well, I'm ready to support this new people.
Me too.
I really am.
Me too.
I am totally there. If they're willing to do what we need them to do, I'm gonna be on board like you've never seen.
Yeah.
I may be an old fart, but I still got a little spark left.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! I love that. I love that. I love that fire. That is a professor right there. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for jumping on with us, and you are the man, my friend.
Hey, we appreciate your talk.
You bet. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
You bet. There he is, Nick Holt. That is a thing, Bobby. I wasn't
all fired up, isn't he?
I wasn't trying to be. I got called out on Speed Zone for being negative, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not being negative. I'm being, like he said, I'm being a realist. I mean, we've done this a time or two.
Yeah, we have. We have been down this road. I've seen it multiple times of people coming in and wanting to come in and save the world, save the planet, save the city. And nothing has come of it. So this is not going to be the first time we've heard it. That's why a lot of people, although we want to be supportive of whoever it is, if it takes shape, obviously we'll be here for them. But yeah, it's hard to be. It's hard to see the end goal when you've been through it so many other times and you've seen so many people come in to be the next great promoter to save a city, to save a racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like there's really a good business sense to take over at San Antonio Speedway where it's at. It seems like it's better to build a brand new one on the other side of town to be able to try to find a way to make something happen. It doesn't have to be the world's greatest facility. It just needs to be. I mean, even Mission Stadium, the San Antonio Missions, their stadium, what is as A1 plus as it is at the Round Rock Express, but apparently their new one will be.
Well, and I think that's one of the things there, like Nick was talking about, because with 16, that is part of the problem, is that it was, I mean, you got to think about that. I mean, it was 26 investors that wanted to buck what Ricky Ware Jr. or Ricky Ware was doing. And I mean, they built a racetrack, and they dug a hole and built this massive racetrack. Imagine had they have been able to build that the right way, to where you weren't half-assing electrical, plumbing. I mean, everything. And I get it. I mean, that was 1977. So it was a different time. But for anyone.
Different city.
Right. But for anyone that's going to go in there and try to modernize that thing, I mean, get a bulldozer. I mean, that's the only way to do it. Only way to do it. And it's so much harder now. And you can't do it in that location. I mean, God, I wish that we could. I would love to see that place racing again. And, somebody reached out to me and they were like, well, you were all on board when, Brian and Brad and all those guys were doing their thing. They didn't do all this teasing. They didn't do all this cryptic Facebook posting and all this shit. Remember that they had a car on the track. You had Chris Sadoff in the birdcage waving the green flag, and Krudimski was out there racing, and they had gone out there. They were working on the racetrack before we ever knew anything about it. That's the difference. That's the fucking difference to me.
Well, and I think that's the way. That was the proof in the pudding when you saw
they were
Mark
invested
on the racetrack.
Right.
It was you're like, oh shit, there's a car on the racetrack.
Right.
This is legit. This isn't a Facebook post that has cars on a flyer that anybody can make with Microsoft Publisher, right?
Exactly.
This was an actual real deal you saw. And then you were like, well, wait, where'd the weeds go? Well, the weeds are gone in turn 1. Yeah, there's that bump in turn 2 that's still there. It's still there. The bump in turn 1's always going to be there till you repave it. I think Casey went in there and fix the bump in turn one. I don't think they fixed the bump in
Yeah,
turn on the
they patched some stuff up. But Krudemski messaged me the day that he was going to the racetrack, and he's like, "Good morning." He sent me a message. He said, "Good morning. I'm going to racing," and he was at San Antonio, and that's where I'm like, "Okay, this shit is legit." And I mean, I don't fault. And honestly, I posted this during the week where it kind of pisses me off is that all these people get invested into this deal. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I mean, I am not saying it's not going to happen. But you get all these people clamoring into this thing, and it's like, all right, we're going again. No, you're not. You're not. You're not going to race her again. And for the drag racing thing, if it is more of a drag racing centric thing, go find a place to build a drag racing track, because Lord knows, I mean, and that's where I said on Facebook, if it were up to me, hell, I'd build a drag racing track and a motocross track, because those are easier.
If I put a circle, you put one pool thing and put a circle track right there together, and then you share the facility.
Right.
That's the easiest way to do it. Like they kind of half-ass do it in Mobile that way.
Yeah,
but they're still centric of each other. They're on the same property. There just happens to be different different facilities in one spot. But
yeah. And I'm not saying this isn't going to work out, and I hope they prove me wrong. And like Nick was saying, I hope. I mean, when they call me up, I mean, they won't call me or you, Bobby, after doing all this, because we're like shooting everything down. But it's like, man, if they call me up and they're like, we're going racing, shit, I'll be there. Yeah. But I really think for the
show me something more than a Facebook post, and I'll get behind it a little bit harder.
And that was the other thing with Chris Sadoff and with Brian. They were like, here we are. This is us. There was none of this stuff where it's like, okay, kind of thinking about what's going to happen. They were like, this is us. This is what we're doing. And, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're going to be wrong. Maybe it all works out. What I would say to asphalt racers in Texas, go support Houston. That's your place. I mean, at this point, I think
that's the only choice you got.
That's the only choice you got. And, I know that I've talked a lot about, to try the Gulf Coast, to try to tie all that in, we need a half-mile track. We just need a paper.
You need a place to race.
Just need a place to race. That's it. And you have that. So anyway, again, it's not. I mean, we are not doing this on this show tonight to blow this thing up and piss all over what folks are trying to do. God damn, I hope we're wrong, Bobby. Man,
I hope so too.
You and me will be the first ones there at San Antonio. I'll make you this deal. So if there's a race at SAS, Bobby and I will dress up in women's dresses again and stand on the front stretch and get married. How about that?
Close enough. We'll figure we might work out a few small details with that. But
he's like, what?
Might work out a few small details, but let's hope it gets to that at least, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, I really do hope it works out, but it's going to be a challenge with what they're doing right there. And I do think that the Alamo City Motorplex thing, I've heard that's been sold. I mean, I don't know. That's the whole thing that you never know. We never know what is going on with all of the scuttlebutt, because that's what everything is at this point.
I'd still rather see a groundbreaking with a Facebook announcement than just a Facebook announcement. That's just me.
Me too. If I'm going to post something, if I'm going to make a groundbreaking Facebook post, I'm going to put an email address, a phone number that will like ring on my phone to where I could answer if I'm available. And I'm not going to put the SAS press box. I'm gonna make it to where it's like contact me, because odds are I need your ass to help.
That's right.
I need you to help me. And I know that people were beating me up about, why are you pissed off about volunteers? I'm like, I mean, volunteers are great, but we work for free. I mean, that's hard. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot of people are volunteers at a racetrack, but a lot of times they at least get a meal enough to cover their meal when they come out and work a racetrack at night.
That's right. All right. That's enough. We're done. We're pissing people off. So maybe time to go. Robert, what is on your agenda for the week, my friend? I'm going to Mexico on Wednesday.
I am not going to Mexico.
They may not let me back in.
Yeah, I'm going back to the office.
I hope they
couple
don't.
of days, and then I will be having a rather large watch party there for TCU at Georgia.
Nice. TCU. How about that?
It was a lot of fun.
How about that?
Almost this close to going to the Natty, but a little too late to get logistics in, like airplane tickets and hotels and more importantly, expensive ass college football playoff tickets.
It got expensive. It got real expensive. All of a sudden.
Yeah. $600 a piece.
Oh my goodness. All right, you guys. Enjoy your week. Thank you all for checking in. Man, we had a lot of folks on tonight. John Heil.
We did.
Nick Holt. How about that? Bobby, have a great week, my man. I'll see you when I get back from Mexico, my man.
Yeah, just have fun. Take pretty pictures. Don't hurt your ankle this time.
That's right. Yeah, no worries. All right, you guys, be good.